there, I'm Katie Cat, and this is our weekly AstroTarot, starting with March 16th, 2024. If this hits you at a different time in life and it resonates, just consider that the message needed to get through to speak to you about your relationship between your mind and your emotions. I say that because our opening card that we have for this week is the Ten of Swords. We see this person who's laying down on their belly with these 10 swords layered along their spine, and yet they're in this position that has one of their hands upright, which is in this healing or truth revealed position. Now, when we look at the suit of the swords, it's referencing the land of the mind. It's referencing our thoughts, our communications, and all of the tarot cards are set up numerologically. So the 10 is a crystallization of some way that we're thinking about things or some way that we're doing things that brings a level of certainty, which has been limiting and has been in some ways creating some kind of paralysis by way of the body in what is reflected in this card. So what exactly does that mean? Well, we might have some idea in our head that things have to happen in a certain way, or we may have, become so fixated with our attention in the tool set of the mind that we've lost connection with our other tool set or our other tools in our tool set. And by that, I mean the other tools leading to the wands, the cups, and the pentacles, which the pentacles represent the body, the wands are our will, and the cups are our emotional realm and our relationships. And in this week's tarot, we have a lot on the table in regard to the two tools of the mind and the emotional realm of our experience and what we're going through right now. So we go from the opening card of this Ten of Swords, which is speaking to some kind of paralysis by way of how we're thinking about things or our certainty around things. And because it is a number 10, it's really pointing to our need to go back to something more simple and maybe not put so much weight and intention behind just how we think about things and how we view things, but maybe put it towards some other tool. Now, the challenge that we are working with actually is this kind of pondering situation, which of course, as you can see, if you're looking at the card, it's the Four of Swords. So it is again in the realm of the mind. And in this card, we see someone that is laying down in a very gray environment. And there's these three swords that are framed above them as if they're like this picturesque representation of a sword, and there's one sword laying down underneath them. Now, fours are numbers of stability, and this would be the first sense of some kind of isolation of sorts. And perhaps that is our challenge right now, is that we're spending too much in our mind, time in our mind, and we're isolated. We don't have a lot of perspective and new ideas by way of conversations happening with people. We don't have any exchanges. We don't have anyone in our life that we value that is challenging the way that we're thinking about things, or, getting us to question the way that we're looking about things. And that is the energetic of this card, is this, being kind of imprisoned by how we think about things and how we think things should be and where things need to go. Now, the way through that came in with our first major arcana for this reading of this week, which is the Lover's card. Now, interestingly enough, the Lover's card references the energetic of Mercury, the planet Mercury, because it governs the sign of Gemini, which is what this card is related to. Now, that also is of the realm of the mind, because Mercury governs the mind, it governs communications. And something that I always do after I pull out the cards is I look at the different astrological transits that are happening right now that are being triggered by this. And in February was when Mercury transitioned over the planet of Pluto. And that was right when Pluto went into 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is, how do we learn this sense of detachment around things? How do we think in the big picture, in the long range picture of things, and what we're ultimately going to be transforming for the next 20 years as Pluto sits in the sign of Aquarius. Now, having Mercury transition over that, it's like Mercury went into the first wave of energetic impressions with Pluto. Now, when we look at Mercury's journey, it went from basically transiting over Pluto, it transited over Mars, which is like this initiation, engaging energy. It transited through Venus, which brought some kind of compassion. It transited through Saturn, which also brought about this idea of like the importance of time and the value of time and what we can do with time, because Saturn is the timekeeper. Then it transitioned through the land of the sun, which brings about some kind of illumination to our essential nature. It also passed through the energetic of Neptune, which is like our long range dreams, and also, you know, the illusions around that unknown and where we can get trapped in that fantasy around things if we don't go out and experience it. And now Mercury is about to transit and come into conjunction with Chiron. And Chiron is an energetic, which is the wounded healer and coming into relationship with our wounds. And so having this card show up as the way through this experience means that we're at this point where we have to make a choice. And what's so interesting is the next card that comes onto the table and as the ultimate outcome is the High Priestess. Now, the High Priestess is governed by the moon as a planet. And this is an energetic, when we look at the card and the figure in this card, her gown is what is creating all of the water throughout the whole tarot deck. And so she brings the undercurrent of emotion and intuition into any situation. And as you've seen, if you go outside and you are in observance of the shifts and changes of the light of the moon as it waxes and wanes through every month, in a new moon, you're in a time and period of darkness. And in a lot of ways, the Ten of Swords is like that energetic of some kind of darkness, some kind of unknown, and feeling like we have certainty around everything's out there, even though once the moon comes out in the space of a full moon, it brings a lot of light into that darkness. And so whenever the High Priestess comes in, she's alluding to this sense of passing of time and waiting and allowing things to be revealed and listening to your emotional nature and how it is encouraging you to interact with the situation and respond to a situation from what you're actually seeing and witnessing through that experience. Now, we are about to go and we are approaching a full moon right now. Like if you go outside at night, right around the time of sun's dusk, you'll see this waxing crescent of the moon because it's gaining light over the next couple of weeks. Now it will be a full moon on the 25th of March, and that will be really close to the North and South Node, which are really close to Chiron right now. And Mercury is going through that space where we're going to have this engagement of this point again. So if you feel like you are starting to see some kind of healing take place in your life, or something that you need to do to bring about some type of healing in your life, I want to encourage you that you are actually on track, even though sometimes going through that darkest hour can be really trying to our spirit. It's ultimately what is calling for us to become and to go a little bit further, even though we're moving through some kind of time of unknown. Now, the ultimate outcome was followed by 3 clarifying cards, which are interesting because the first one of which is the 10 of Cups, which is another 10. It's another crystallization, but this time around the idea of what happily ever after looks like. And that was clarified further by this 7 of Cups, which is interesting because, you know, we have this overabundance of these energies of the swords and the cups, which is the mind and the emotions, and this north-south node eclipse time that we're entering into right now is in the realm of relationships, because the full moon will be in the sign of Libra, and of course the new moon the full moon will be in Libra, and then the sun and Chiron will be over in the sign of Aries, which will be highlighting those aspects of ourself that we really still want to develop and what we need to let go of by way of how we see things, by way of what we consider happily ever after is, and actually let go of those illusions of happiness, which is ultimately what this card is hinting to. Now, it's also making us look at, you know, a lot of the process of being in relationship is being in relationship. There's not something that is permanent. It's not like a pinnacle or a mountaintop that we reach, and once we're there, it will be there forevermore. Like, relationships take work, and that's part of what allows a relationship to grow, is when people can move through trying experiences and support one another and really see what you're capable of with someone in your life who is supporting of you in that way. And so it's asking us to really take a look at what happiness is, and if it is just this kind of fairy tale story, or if there are, you know, moments in everyday life that actually bring us that sweet happiness, which actually makes it worthwhile to commit to something and then to put our energy there, because there is some kind of choice that we have to make in regard to relationship. And if we choose the high or low road, and if we're willing to work for growth, or if we, you know, surrender into some kind of suffering that leaves us entrapped in the mind by way of the cards. Now, the final card that came onto the table for this week was the Seven of Swords. So we have the Ten of Swords, we have the Four of Swords, we have the Ten of Cups, we have the Seven of Cups, and then we have the Seven of Swords. So sevens are telling us about learning around some kind of experience, right? So if we have the Seven of Cups, it's like, what do we learn from this emotional experience? What do we gather from it that is of value that we're going to carry around with us? Are we going to carry around, you know, the happy moments and the joyful moments, or are we going to carry around the bitterness? And what do we want to carry around in our cup? Because ultimately, you know, that's what builds our experience and creates the terrain that we have to navigate through on a daily basis in how we look at it and what we've gathered from it and what we've put of value toward it. Now, the Seven of Swords is a little different flavor than the Seven of Cups, in that it's talking about that same kind of energetic, but in the realm of the mind. And what do we need to walk away from? And it's interesting to me that we started with the Ten of Swords and that we're ending the reading this week with the Seven of Swords, because it does kind of point to some of the swords that we've let go of, like some ways of thinking about something or some way of seeing something that we are detaching from and that we're letting go of. And we see someone in this card who is literally walking away from like a village or like a tent community with only 5 swords in their hand, and they're leaving 2 swords behind. So they're leaving behind like the duality of how they see things, and they're taking with them this ability to choose what they want to carry by way of mentally, like what you want to think about. And there's something that is kind of, you know, being referenced there, which is something I think is really helpful to experiment with sometimes, which is, you know, to give yourself an anchor to revisit as something to think about, because so often we revisit the same things that cause us pain or cause us some kind of discontent because we want to fix it. We want to, you know, figure out the riddle, or maybe that's just me. I could be alone with that ability in the world of, like, you know, finding the red stitch in the tapestry and just looking at that instead of looking at the entire tapestry and all the complexities and everything else. And so when I experiment and I put my attention on something different, like something that I want to figure out in life, that's like, you know, perhaps like what it would take to sell, you know, 50 tarot decks, because I'm going to be printing my tarot deck here in a month or so, and I'll have them, and what am I going to do by way of distributing them, and, you know, developing those ideas and letting my mind go to those ideas rather than to this, you know, unhappily ever after that was just experienced. Maybe, you know, part of the journey in of itself is allowing, you know, the storms in some ways to guide you, and seeing who shows up in those storms and how your life is shaped from that, and trusting in the process, because we're going through an intense time right now that we're stepping into by way of relationship, because the nodes are anchored in the signs of relationship of Aries and Libra. So wherever those energies are placed in your chart is where you're going to experience some big changes, because the eclipses tend to do that. They tend to really redirect our ship and show us the work that we are here to be working on right now. So I send you a good wish for this week. I send you a lot of love. Of course, if you're interested in pre-ordering one of my tarot decks, then you're welcome to do that at rootsofalchemy.com. And if you want to donate to the printing of the process, you're also welcome to do that through rootsofalchemy.com. I send you a lot of love, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.